Hey folks, Andy here, hope you're fitting well. Right, back there I have got a bunch of valve amps. Valve amps tend to get loud before they get good, we've talked about this before. And one of the things that we can do to try to control this is to lose some of the output of the amplifier before it hits a speaker. Now, back in the 80s and 90s, these things, attenuators, were all the rage. This is a THD Hotplate, THD now sadly gone. This is a resistive device, and that means that it's got a bloody great big resistor in it. The output from your amplifier hits that resistor and a bunch of it gets converted to heat, which is then just wafted off into the air. And depending on how you've got these controls set, part of the rest of it can be passed through to your speakers to give you a lower output level. You can turn this down between round about 4 dB and infinite dB, and the sound just gets worse and worse as you get quieter and quieter, but it will take your amplifier and it will make it quiet. Now, on the back of this device is a line output. The Hotplates and other devices like them, which were considered to be, a fantastic idea back in the day, are nowadays considered to be pretty much junk. And the reason that they're considered to be junk is because they are simply resistive. And that means that the power that you're losing from the amp, you're simply losing across a resistor. So why does that matter, and what's the alternative? Well, take the second part first. The alternative is a reactive load. And what does that mean, and why is it a benefit? Okay, you've got a speaker cab. The speakers in your cab have got a nominal impedance, and it will typically, for guitar purposes, be 8 or 16 ohms, but it might be different. It might be 4 or 32, might even be something completely different. And what will tend to happen is that as you put different frequency signals into it, at the low end, you are going to get a resonant bump, and at the high end, you're going to get a lift caused by the inductance, the voice coil in the speakers. So feel free to zone out for a moment if you want to, but if you have a valve amp, it is going to attempt to deliver the same current across the impedance range of that speaker. To deliver the same current, it's going to have to deliver more voltage into the higher impedance frequency ranges. What this means is that if you have this speaker with an impedance curve that looks like this, then the frequency of that resonant bump and of that inductive high lift, you're going to get more power. So if you plug the output of your valve amp into a resistive load, it's just going to see a flat 8 ohms or 16 ohms. You're not going to get that bump, you're not going to get that lift, and you're going to get a much deader sound. And that's why reactive loads, which are designed to mimic the impedance curve of a loudspeaker, are considered to be so much better, and why resistive loads are now pretty well passé. So how great are reactive loads and how bad are resistive loads? Well, I've got my resistive load here, back there I've got my Suhr Reactive Load, so I'm going to do a little experiment and see. On the top in green we've got the Hotplate output, and below it in blue we've got the Suhr Reactive Load output. On the left we've got the slightly more driven version, on the right the slightly less, by no means clean but a little bit more dynamic take. Right, a couple of things that are quite obvious here. One is that the Hotplate output is an awful lot more compressed than the Suhr Reactive Load output. And also you can see there's a relay symmetry to this waveform. It's reflected on both tracks, but it's easier to see on the blue Reactive Load. And that's something that maybe we will have a look at some point in the future. I've done my best to balance the levels of these two, with the Hotplate track being a lot more compressed. It's obviously the average levels tend to be a bit high. We're going to start with the Hotplate. We're going to start with the more driven version. Here we go. And moving over to the more dynamic take, again starting with the Hotplate. Okay, let's see if we can get a visual clue as to what is going on here. Here's what the SRL track looks like on its own. And then I can bring in the trace for the hot plate. If I just adjust the gain so that we can clearly see them. Okay, there you go. So hot plate in sort of orangey colour, SRL in blue. If I match up the mid-range, which should be pretty similar, and yet if we look at that, we can see there's that definite bottom end bump and there's that top end lift. Now, bearing in mind that this is from an amp that does have negative feedback, so those bumps and lifts are a little bit flattened out from what we might see on the impedance curve chart. So there you go, with a playing field about as level as I can get it, that is what the difference between a reactive and a resistive load sounds like. Was it what you thought you were going to hear? Maybe stick a comment down below. Any questions, stick them down below. If this is useful, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, bell, all that good stuff. Until next time, look after yourselves. I'm Andy Picker, and I look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now.